Hello, everybody. Get comfy with not knowing. That's today's faction hack. You like it? Because I love the thinking part and I love the action part. So let's just combine them and call them faction. And I'm here. I'm Allegra Stein. And I'm just sharing little ideas to get you thinking and to get you maybe in action or some micro action. And so they're little and they're bite-sized because I like them that way. And so we'll call them hacks, faction hacks. So today's faction hack is all around what to do when you don't know what to do, how to get comfortable with not knowing, which is seems to be a question that a lot of people have, because I heard from many of you yesterday when I brought it up in an email I sent out this morning. I got some questions that I want to answer. Before we get to that, I want to just take care of some nuts and bolts, which I always enjoy. And if you are here, please say hello in the comments. I'm using a different platform today. I'm on BeLive instead of straight through Facebook. And so I can't see who hops on when. So if you're here, say hello in the comments. Hello, Karen. Love it. Because that would be awesome to know that you're here. So, little bit of business. Please feel free, if you feel so inspired to share this video, you can share it now by clicking the share button. You can send it personally. Hi, Melissa. I'm curious if it worked out. Did this notification system work better than yesterday's? I would love to know, because I set it up through BeLive because of the struggles that some people were having with getting the live notifications. So I'd love to know. Please feel free to share, to share your comments. Even if you are not watching live, you can add them anyway, because add your notes to the comments, because I'm following up throughout the day and even in the days following. So definitely share your comments even if you can't be here live. Beth is telling me that the link worked. That's awesome. All right, maybe I'll keep using this then and trying to schedule it in advance. And Melissa's saying it worked great too, so that's awesome. Okay, let's see where we're going today. Let's just dive in. If you have questions, this one is really important because I know many of you were interested in this question of like, what do I do with the not knowing? More important than ever with this one is listen for ideas that you hear and not for anything that I say, okay? Because what you hear is going to be the most important thing, much more important than any words that come out of my mouth. I'm going to be sharing some other questions that have come through. They might not feel specific to you, but listen for yourself in some of these things and share your insights in the comments, because I'm happy to, while I'm live here, just respond back and forth if you want to share those below. Okay, where are my notes? I prepared. When it comes into not knowing, or comes to not knowing, there were a couple of categories. One of the first categories was not knowing what's going to happen in the future, right? I don't know what's going to happen to the future. This came up with a colleague of mine this past weekend where she was saying, I don't know what I'm going to write on Tuesday. And she was thinking about it on Saturday. So there was a lot of future thinking about this future event and not knowing what was going to happen in that future event. And I call that kind of thinking the bus stop principle. The reason I call it the bus stop principle is because I have a young son. He's 6 years old. He takes the bus to school. And every so often at night at bedtime, he'll say, Mom, I don't want to get on the bus in the morning. And I will gently remind him and ask him, I'll say, are you getting on the bus right now? And he'll say, no. And I'll say, then I'll make you a deal. When the time comes to get on the bus, then we can think about it. Because there's nothing you can do about it right now. So right now you're in your bed. Right now we're all cozy and warm. And the bus isn't happening right now. When it is happening, we can talk about it. But I just want to let you know that you can let it go until it's happening. And I shared the same advice with this friend of mine when she was talking on Saturday about what she was going to write on Tuesday. I said, listen, if you're not going to write about it right in this moment, then no amount of thinking is going to prepare you any further for what you may or may not write on Tuesday. So as much as possible, let it go until Tuesday. So this comes up a lot when I'm talking with people one-on-one, that you know, if you're coming to me and you're saying, oh, this thing is going to happen next week, I don't know what's going to happen. My advice to you is, yes, I know. And when it happens, we can talk about it. When it happens, you can start thinking about it. Because what I have found is that the more thinking we do about a future event, sometimes the less prepared we are to be spontaneous, to be creative, to respond from a place of authenticity. Another example of this is a girl I was speaking with who had written her master's thesis, and she had to give a presentation about it. She had to give this final talk, and her boyfriend kept saying to her, well, make sure you practice. And she said, you know what? I don't have the bandwidth to practice. I can't practice anymore. I need to stop thinking about it. And she showed up the next day without much practice. She hadn't been thinking about it. She stood up, and it was an amazing presentation because she was open, because her thinking was settled down, because she hadn't like tried to fill her mind with all of this stuff. So that's the first kind of like, I don't know, is wondering what's going to happen in a future event. If something like this is resonating with you, please leave it in the comments. If there's something that you feel is in this wheelhouse, share more about it, and I'll follow up for sure. The second kind of thinking about like, I don't know stuff, one of the things that came up is something called like, is this the right decision? Is what I'm doing the right path to be on? My answer to which, hi Tanya, yay, I'm so glad you made it. You know, our brains, like our subconscious, are a bit evolutionarily behind, right? They are designed to protect us. Our lizard brains do not like change. So when we're facing something that's a change, that's going to be different, right? Our primitive self is going to say, change, no, not good. That fixating on the future what if is totally a thing. I just want to see what Karen said here before. And it does get in the way of living in the moment. Most definitely. I call it future thinking, and it happens all the time. And again, sometimes there's no stopping it, but it's just noticing it. And it's being like, it's the bus stop principle, and the bus isn't here. When the bus is here, then we can talk about it. So really quickly, our primitive brains are, you know, looking to protect us. They don't want change. So when you are considering something different, our brains sometimes say, oh, it's not going to be good, right? Or something bad could happen. Because if we knew it was right, if you knew what your next step was the right one, then there would be no hesitation. There would be no question, is it right? Because you would know. So it's helpful to just notice that. You know, my daughter, when she wants to go to the doctor, she gets really nervous and she says, I don't know what's going to happen. Is it going to be okay? And I say to her, well, that's not true. Like, you think you know what's going to happen, which is why you're nervous. Because if you thought it was going to be okay, then you wouldn't have this anxiety. Like, we're telling ourselves stories in the background that are making us think it's going to turn out incorrectly, or there's going to be a mistake or an error. And that's something that's really helpful too, is to ask yourself, how comfortable are you making mistakes? This is key. Like, are you comfortable with making a mistake? Are you comfortable with trying something and realizing down the road, you know what, this wasn't something that I wanted to do? And this is really helpful combined with what I talked about yesterday. And if you watch yesterday's video, this idea that you are not a boomerang. You don't go and try something out, and then if it doesn't work out, spring back to that place that you started from. You go forward, you try something out, you realize, you know what, this isn't the path that I want to be on. What's the next path? And it opens up in front of you. Okay, so if you're willing to do that, if you have a willingness to try something out, it makes that decision a lot less heavy, because the question of, is this going to be right, is essentially asking your brain to be able to tell you the future. Like, I want to know the future. And until I know the future, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to start. So reframing that is like, you mean mistakes aren't bad? No, Melissa, mistakes are wonderful. I am a mistake cheerleader. I sometimes call myself like a failure cheerleader, because if you fail at something, it means you've tried it. And that, I think, is where we tend to close ourselves off, because we have this fear around doing something wrong, deciding something isn't a right fit. What if it doesn't work out? So a couple of little notes, extra things that I wanted to kind of bring to the table. The first one, give in to not knowing, because the fact of the matter is we never know. We think we know. Right now, you think you know what your day is going to look like. You think you know what tomorrow is going to look like. But what happens when we're in these moments of actual not knowing, saying, gosh, I don't know how it's going to turn out at my meeting on Thursday, is it's almost like the curtain gets pulled back and we're faced with the reality of things, was that we just don't know. So when I'm talking with someone and they say, I don't know what's going to happen, it's not about trying to change that, because nothing can change it. No amount of sitting and waiting and wondering is going to be able to tell you what the future is going to hold. But what we can do is say, all right, can we get comfortable with that? Can you be comfortable with not knowing what's going to happen on Thursday? And are you willing to release some of that worry until Thursday shows up, until the bus comes? And when Thursday gets here, then we'll talk about it. But you're going to be a different person on Thursday than you are now. So why so much energy on trying to, again, predict and know who you will be and what exactly will happen on Thursday? The second thing I wrote down is that sometimes it's not actually the not knowing that's bugging you. Because, again, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so I'm not going to do it. Thanks, Tanya. And you're such a good, awesome person. So win-win. Sometimes it's not about not knowing. It's that you're actually telling yourself it's going to be bad. Because, again, it's like the kid who said, you put a cake in front of a kid or a piece of food in front of a kid and they say, I don't like it. And you say, well, how do you know you don't like it? Well, I just don't like it. And you want to say to you tell your kid, like, well, taste it first. Find out if you don't like it. Then if you know, then we have something real to work with. But the reason they don't want to try the food is because they think it's going to be bad. And that's an important distinction, that I don't think oftentimes it's, I don't know what's going to happen. I think what's happening a lot is we're telling ourselves that it's not going to work out well. And that's why we end up not taking that step. Okay, here's a really good one, especially for those of you that are trying to figure out, like, what could I do next? What am I going to do next? And I know some of you are in that place of, there's so many things and I don't know what to do next. Take a step back, slow down, and make yourself a could list. I did a video last week about could, want, will, and I want you to take all obligation off of your shoulders from having to do anything, that there is no should. It's more, what could you do? And let yourself generate some enthusiasm about your ideas. And again, could, does, yay, Tanya did her could list. I love it. I'd love to know more about it. What's on your could list? Melissa, I would be curious about this one for you if you're still watching. What's on your could list? What are all the things you could do? And we hold ourselves back for that because then we think, well, if I write it down, then I have to do it. You don't have to do any of it. Just write down all the things you could do with your day, with your next step, with the possible adventure. Just something just to get it down in front of you and take that obligation off. It takes that edge off of, like, I don't know what I'm going to do next, to, well, what could you do? And it gets your brain working in a new way. I love this one. You ready? When there is something ahead of you and you don't know what's going to happen or not, I love to say that you can either keep imagining what's going to happen or you can go find out what's going to happen. And you have to ask yourself which person you want to be. You have to ask yourself, which person do you want to be? Do you want to be the person that just sits and imagines what could happen? And I, with certainty, know that your imagination is probably is a lot worse than what will actually happen. But I get it. Trust me, I get it. Imaginations are crazy powerful things. And they can work in our favor, but they can also keep us shut in. So you can either imagine it or you can go find out. Yes, Melissa, you could write a list. You can go find out. And I'm a big believer that that's what life is about. Go find out what's going to happen. And ask yourself if you want to be the person that finds out what happens, and if you want to find out who you are in that situation. I learned that one when I read this article about having kids, and now someone's like, should I have a kid? I don't know. Should I have a kid or not? Should I have a kid? And it's this big question. And it's kind of like asking yourself, well, what's the future going to hold? Is this going to be great or is it not going to be great? It's an unanswerable question of what's going to happen in the future. But what is an answerable question is, do you want to find out who you are if you have a kid? And so my question to you, if you are considering a new direction, if there's something ahead of you that feels a bit scary, is do you want to find out who you are in that circumstance? If the shit hits the fan, pardon my language, sorry about that. if things don't go the way you expect. And I suspect you can say to yourself, well, yeah, I want to find out who I am in those situations, or no, I'd rather not. And that is something solid that you can hold on to. Okay. There's only one more, really. And then I'll go through and I'll look at all questions. So feel free to type them over, and I'll come over to the comments and I'll answer all the questions that you've posted. The last thing I want you to consider is that you can not know and still decide to do something. So I want you to practice saying, I don't know, and I'm going to find out. I don't know, and I'm going to still take action. Because usually we say, well, I don't know what's going to happen, so I can't do anything about it. And I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to sit here and imagine it rather than go find out. So practice that skill of like, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen if I take that dance class, and I'm going to go find out. Or I don't know what would happen if I talked to my boss about expanding my job opportunities, and I'm going to go find out. Because reality is so much more powerful and cool and neat than what we can imagine. And I'm an example of this right now. Like, me doing these Facebook Lives every day is a huge experiment. I have no idea what's going to happen. And when it first came to mind, I'm like, man, that's kind of going to be a lot of things. Like, how's it going to go? And guess what? I'm finding out. And what I'm discovering through doing it is so much more rich and awesome than what I could have imagined it being. And I have to thank Karen for that, because I know you're watching. And so I thank her, because she was the one that was like, Allegra, you're just sitting in your imagination. You got to get out there and do something. I was like, you're right. And now I am. And it's cool. So let me take a look at some of the comments that have come through. And if you haven't, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. Tanya, you're awesome. Thank you. Let's see. Let me see if I can close this. Karen shared earlier that the fixating on future what ifs is totally a thing, and it does get in the way of living in the moment. Most definitely. I call it future thinking. You know what the sister is of future thinking? Past thinking. All of that thinking is pretty much a nice, big, stuck soup is what that is. So it's good to notice it. Melissa asked earlier, you mean mistakes aren't bad? No. Mistakes means you're doing stuff. And so if we can normalize mistakes, that's the deeper question. If you can normalize mistakes, then you can change and you can shift and you can reevaluate kind of this direction that you're moving. Tanya has some lovely messages. Thank you. Thank you. She did. Let's see. Tanya asked, most of the things on my list are learning something new. Is this common? I don't listen. And I'm going to say this with love. What matters is if it matters to you. That's what matters. I don't care if it's common. If what's on your could list are all new things, awesome. That's great. Embrace it. Let it be new for you. And if it's common or not common, is I want you to look at your own list and ask yourself, like, are some of these things lighting me up? And if you haven't watched the Could Want Will video, it's just from a few days back. It kind of talks about what you can then do with your could list. So that's awesome. I love that they're new things. Let's see. Karen said later, she's like, what kind of person do you want to be? And I think that's just a great note. Thank you for sharing that and highlighting it, Karen. Beth is saying, I think you may be saying that the present is the only reality. Well, is that what you're hearing, Beth? Is that what you're hearing? Because it doesn't matter what I'm saying. What matters is what you're hearing, because those are the insights that are going to stick, even if it's that one thing. So I'm curious if that's what you're hearing. Cool. Like the comment on the screen. Me too. Miranda says, like the comments on the screen. I'm loving it. I'm pretty much going to keep using this all the time. Tanya, you'll do your want list now. That's awesome. And Tanya, create your want list from your could list. And the could list is constantly changing. But look at all those things. You're like, I could do these things. And then go through it and say, which ones do I want to do? And you can highlight them. But remember, wanting to do them doesn't mean you will. So take the pressure off yourself from that. Like, it's an important line, because sometimes we don't let ourselves say what we want because we think, oh, then I have to do it and I'm scared to do it. So let yourself play in that kind of fun of like, ooh, I really want to do that one. Okay. Thanks, Melissa. I'm really loving it too. And I'll do the next one tomorrow. If anyone has a time request for tomorrow, I will, if anyone has a time request for tomorrow, let me know, because This 12:31 works really well for me, but I can usually find time between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern to start. I could try and do a PM Eastern, like an 8 p.m. Eastern, but I'm not sure if you guys are around then. So let me know. Even if you're not watching live, leave it in the comments. Okay, really quick. Some people sent some questions in. I'm going to eliminate their names for anonymity, but listen for yourself in these examples and feel free to share any questions that come up to the side. Okay, this is from an awesome person I'll call A. 9 months ago, I made a crazy decision to move to Spain with my boyfriend. That's radical. I love adventure. So I'm always like, yay, adventure. It's been both difficult and life enriching, as most really cool, powerful things are. And I'm so glad I did it. But now my contract here is coming to an end, and I'm looking at going back to where I'm from for a little bit. The only thing is, I currently have no job waiting for me, so I'll be moving in with my mom for a bit. If this is resonating with you in a different part of your life, perhaps, please click, just type yes, totally get it, because I totally get that. And it's killing me. Making future plans is one of my favorite things, and I'm struggling with the sheer amount of unknowns when I don't know if I'll have a stable income or how long I'll have to live with my mom, and that I won't have the power to move into my own place even if I want to. I'm so curious, A, if you heard your answer in what I've shared up until now. But what I just want to remind you of, right now, all of that is imaginary. All of it's imaginary. This what if this doesn't happen? What if that? What if this? What if that? Oh my gosh, those things can just feel like weights just holding us down, like staring at what if. And my answer to that is, you're right. I don't know. You may end up in a position where you don't have stable income for a little while. You may end up at your mom's for a little longer than maybe you thought, but you can't pretend to know what the future holds. And right now, I think you do know what the future holds because you're describing this future that feels really heavy, but it's all imaginary. So my instruction to you, my advice for you, my question to you is, do you want to find out? Do you want to find out? You took a huge leap to find out who you are in this new country, in this new situation, and you described it as life enriching and difficult, and that's exactly what these things are. So, do you want to find out again? And let me know, because I'd love to know. All right, next. Here's my not knowing question. This is from M. Let's see. I'm working on shifting my mindset. I had a breakup recently, and my unconscious reaction to this is that stuff just doesn't work out. So I'm looking for reasons why it won't, which is why I ended it. If we decide to get back together, I think we're going to be in a place of needing to move forward and not just going back to where we were. In our case, this means moving in together. Ironically, my current lease is up at the end of June, and my landlord just informed me of an increase in my rent, significant enough that I want to move. How do I know if moving in together is the right call? Oh, I wish I could tell you. I wish I could just be like, right call. And I bet you got a lot of people in your life who are trying to tell you, yes, it's the right thing, or no, it's not the right thing. And I'm going to release you from trying to figure out the answer to that question. Okay? The question is not, is the right call? The question to be asking yourself is, well, first, it's kind of tapping back into that quiet place, tapping back into that place underneath all of your thinking, and really listening for your inner wisdom to start speaking through, of like, if this is something you want, why you want it, what kind of the motivations are behind that. But the second thing is to release yourself from trying to know if it's right or not. Because the answer is, I don't know if it's right. And there is no right. The only thing that we can do is just keep moving forward and discovering and experimenting. So do you want to try this experiment? Do you want to give it a shot? And if you do, great. And if you don't, great. Because both decisions are going to lead you down a path. And at the ends of those paths are going to be even more paths. And the path you don't go on is imagined. Just remember that. So I'm curious, Em, if that helped at all, what's coming up for you? Again, you can reach out to me personally or share it in the comments. And finally, the last one. This is really, the summary of this one, and this is from W, came in this morning, was, let's see. I'm just trying to figure out the simplest way to put it, so I don't ramble too long. How do I get comfortable with not knowing? How can someone do that when it comes to paths of life choice? Is it just about confidence, not holding tight to expectations, convincing yourself that all roads will lead to a better you no matter what? My challenge is the impact it may have on others, and they depend on my certainty. So for instance, career change choices or lifestyle choices, things that might require shifting a path that will have repercussions beyond me. If path choices on that branching path are going to push me to a new branch, how can I get comfortable with uncertainty? So this is where I really love to dive into an idea that I'll reintroduce in another video around micro actions and taking teeny tiny little steps in a direction that you want to head, and kind of like assessing and seeing what happens. So without knowing too much specifically what you're thinking about, W, I would love to know, what are some of these specific things? Because sometimes ideas feel so much bigger in our heads and in our minds than letting ourselves get super specific about it. So I would love to know, like, what is this big change that you want to make? And can it be handled in a way in teeny tiny little bits? So the transition isn't totally black and white, but really exploring that gray scale of options in between. Because again, when we start to picture a new path, we kind of jump to the end of it, of like, what's going to happen way out there? And I'd like to kind of pull it back and say, well, no, what is the thing that you're thinking about doing right now? There'll be a teeny tiny little change. And is the impact and the reverberations from that as big as you're imagining them to be, or can it be more gradual in that transition? So that's what I've got. Are there any more questions coming through at all? I would love to answer them live if they're here. I would also love to invite all of you, as I do every day, if this is resonating with you. Again, I'm kind of just scratching the surface when I'm here talking to you like this, but my jam is totally connecting one-on-one and really helping you implement a lot of these ideas into your own circumstances and getting you moving forward towards those things that you want. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can totally set up a discovery call with me. You can find it at, let's see, there you go, at allegrastein.com coaching. And I think I can put it in the comments as well. So that's there too. And I hope you'll take advantage of that if you'd like to connect one-on-one. Thank you all so much for being here live. This was a longer one. I hope it's been of value. I will be back tomorrow. And I tend to kind of take inspiration from today's stuff for what I want to bring to the table tomorrow. So what I will do is I will set up another scheduling event, kind of like I did before with this one, and I will post it. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And I hope to see you again tomorrow. You're all awesome. Is there anything else that came through? Thank you, Tanya. Melissa says the best video yet. I'd love to know that. Actually, I'm going to be putting out, I would love to know, and I'll put something out about it, trying to put it out something separate. But one of my favorite feedback questions right now is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, and I love feedback, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the videos so far? And if it's not a 10, what would make it a 10? So what would you love to hear or see or have be done differently? Are there topics that you'd love to see me explore? Because I am really open to requests right now. This is a very organic, in the moment experiment for me, and I love being responsive to what it is that you're looking for. So feel free to share those things in the comments as well, and maybe I'll try to put a little survey out or a little question out separate later today to get your thoughts on that. Awesome. You're great. Again, feel free to share, comment, like, or reach out to me if you'd like to connect further. Thanks for the hearts. Yay, Tanya, 10. Awesome. All right, Marinda. So awesome, Marinda. You're all great. Look at these last. I just have to show you guys because I can do that. Boom. Look at that. Awesome stars. And Tanya shared a 10. Thank you. But it's okay if it's not a 10. I'm just letting all you know, if some of you are out there, you're like, yeah, they're like a 7 or an 8. Give me the feedback. I'm open to it. Okay. You're all great. Have a fabulous rest of your day. And, oh, Nicole. Thank you. You're all an inspiration to me. I pretty much do this with you guys in mind. So give me stuff because I, all of this work is only as powerful as like what happens between me and you. So continue to share. And thanks, Beth. That's awesome. And I'd love to know what topics you'd love me to tackle next because I'm game. I'm like a blank slate. Okay. You're all great. You're all great. I'll talk to you tomorrow or in the comments. Okay, bye.